Then write short notes on any three subdivision load line, excluded spaces, permissible length, floodable length, and standard fire test. So each is 8 marks. So excluded space is there, then at least you have to give 3 or 4 examples of excluded space along with diagrams. Subdivision load line, you have to make the diagram of subdivision load line and explain that. Here, yeah, permissible length is there. Standard fire test, the graph, in short, you have to show. Floodable length, whatever we explained today, that has to be mentioned. Question number 8 is divided into two parts. One is sequence of events that take place in the modern shipyard. So right for the inception point is the concept phase till the launching of the ship in the shipyard. Till that, you have to describe that. You have to make the flow chart and describe it. Right from the concept phase till the launching of the ship. Then is your high tensile steel. You have to describe the advantages and disadvantages of high tensile steel in shipbuilding. That was the paper. Rest all will be stability paper. Inclining experiment and all that is stability. 1, 2, and 3 are all stability. Plus 5 is rolling motion of vessel in still water and synchronous. So that will be corrected by Captain Steve. So this will be again under stability. Now the internal exam paper, normally your internal exam paper is all your stability, your MMD paper. So better prepare all your past 6 months MMD papers for internal exam. So this is March internal paper. Question 4 is sketch and label midship section of modern chemical tanker. So you just have to sketch and label, you don't have to describe that. B is indicate the spacing required for the tank side to ship side and the bottom of different types of tankers. So for type 1, type 2, type 3, you have to show what is the distance of your double hull and the distance of double bottom. What is the height of your double bottom? That you have to make with diagrams. Type 3 will not have any double hull or double bottom. Type 2 will have 76 centimeter double hull, the minimum requirement there. And the DB will be 6 meters or B by 5, whichever is less. It will be B by 15, sorry. B by 15 or 6 meters, whichever is less. Similarly, your type 1 will be 11 meters or B by 5, whichever is less. So just consult with your notes also. That you have to make accordingly. Fifth is not my area, so that will not be covered by me. Sixth is your computation of freeboard on type B ships. So what is the process? You take a tabular freeboard and how you do that computation. So what is that process you do and what corrections you apply? So whatever corrections you apply on type A will be applied on type B also. So you have to write about all the corrections for type B. Describe additional requirements for B60. So what are the additional requirements for B60? You have to mention that. Question number 7. You have to write short notes on any three. You don't have to write all, only three. So each is 8 marks. So floodable and margin line, net tonnage, multiple load line, which we have done, and superstructure along with the definition of superstructure, which we have done for the correction of freeboard. That you have to explain. Number 8 will be describe the following as per SOLAS, your standard fire test, A-class division and service spaces which are on your Roro ships and all. So service spaces also has to be explained in this. And then 9 is inclining experiment. This is April internal exam. The same question has come, only this is chain rest all is same. Roro ship, midship section, sketch and label. What is the traditional method of building the ship? So traditional method is whatever we had the concept design and all that was used for building the ship till the launching part. Because nowadays the futuristic model is totally different. The traditional method is what we were doing in the shipyard. Future method has changed. In what ways is fabrication different from earlier method? In fabrication, prefabrication, your various sections are brought to shipyard and joined together. Earlier, they were basically keel was laid and all the sections were connected there. So all the sections were built there. Vendors were not too many. And nowadays, prefabrication takes place. So the various vendors are preparing the sections as per design, and these are brought together in the shipyard and joined together. Then you have to write what are the advantages of prefabrication. Number 6 is again the same thing, computation of freeboard of type B. So obtain the tabular freeboard for type B from the tables and then start applying your corrections. Those 5 or 6 corrections you have to apply and then explain that. So step by step procedure. This we have already discussed, the floodable and margin line, permissible and multiple load line, superstructure. Describe the sequence of events that take place in modern shipyard while building a ship. That is from the concept to the launching stage. Then you have to make a diagram for impact test and explain that. So that diagram, label diagram should be there with explanation because this is 12 marks and that is 13 marks. Then you have to write gross tonnage and net tonnage. Now in this paper, guys, they had written gross registered tonnage and net registered tonnage. That was 0. So you have to write about gross tonnage and net tonnage with the formula. And then about subdivision load line. So not a very difficult paper. So I'll see which other papers are. January. So here you have to sketch and label Roro vessel and describe the salient features of Roro vessel. At least 8 to 10 salient features should be written about Roro vessel. That is including service spaces, anti-heeling tank, your high freeboard is there, your ramps are there, the bow doors and stern doors, then your lifts are there in the vessel or you have ramps. There are there are very few transverse bulkheads, mostly pillars, so they are uninterrupted spaces for your vehicles. The vehicle decks are pretty strengthened to take the localized loading, and the longitudinals are deeper and they are closely fitted there. So these are the salient features of Roro vessel. Then your 5 question, unregistered rolling and parametric will not be my purview. We come to 6, normalizing. So that is your heat treatment when you're resetting the metal back to its own structure. Brittle fracture, you have to explain what is brittle fracture. Then you have yield point. Yield point is in your stress and strain diagram. You have to explain the yield point. Beyond the yield point, your metal will become in the plastic stage. So that is your yield point or the elastic limit. After that, it will go in the plastic phase. Then 6B is your 2 destructive test. So all your sick tests, which are fatigue test, which are your impact tests, your hardness tests and all, these all are destructive tests because the sample piece is destructed. So these are all destructive tests. So any 2 destructive tests you have to explain with your diagram. 7A. What are the requirements and special condition needed for the ship to be categorized as type A as per the load line regulations? So whatever the requirements for condition of assignment for type A, you have to write in this answer. What are the conditions of assignment for type A? You have to write here. And under what circumstances your load line exemption certificate is issued. So this might be 13-mark question. This might be 12-mark question. 7B is the corrections to be made on the basic freeboard to find your summer freeboard. So all your 5 to 6 corrections you have to explain. 8A. What do you understand by gross tonnage, net tonnage, and how they are calculated through your formula K1B and all that you have to explain. For gross tonnage and net tonnage is K1 dash into 4D by 3D whole square plus K3 into N1 plus N2 by 10, all that you have to write. 8B is your enclosed space. What is enclosed space? So by suitable drawing, you have to explain enclosed space covered above and below. That means sides are open. This is a diagram where the above and below are covered and sides are with stanchions. That you have to explain with a diagram. Now you're getting the point what you have to write in these answers. Here was a Roro question, midship section. Here you have to describe because written sketch, label and describe. So you have to do all the 3. Sketch, label and describe Roro. So what torsional stress is in rolling motion, that you have to explain. Torsion box and all, and inclining experiment that you whatever you studied. We come to 6A. 6A is the 5 corrections you have to apply. B is load line exemption certificate and when it is issued. That we've done. 7A, this is the second question on tonnage. So two questions have come on tonnage here. Permeability and factor of subdivision calculation with respect to passenger ships or load line. Formulas and all you have to write and explain both. Gross tonnage and net tonnage, you have to write the formulas and explain the conditions. 8A, two heat treatments. You can write about tempering or annealing or the other two, normalizing. You can write any two. Short notes on nesting, shell expansion plan, and TIG welding. So you just make small diagrams and explain. This is each is you can say 4 marks each. Now we come to 9, stress strain curve. So you have to draw the stress strain curve and explain each point from the inception point. What is stress? You have to make the arrows accordingly, and each point has to be explained. Yield point, fracture point, UTS, all have to be explained. Plastic limit, strain hardening, or necking, all that you have to explain. 9B, precautions required against corrosion when aluminum is connected to steel. So here you have to write about bolting, make the diagram. Then you have to write about cladding along with diagram and TIG welding along with diagram. So all the three you have to write. So this is December internal paper. VLCC carrier you have to explain. So they have not mentioned double hull or single hull. They have not mentioned. So draw and explain anyone you can make, no problem. Description should be done. 6 says how the tabular freeboard is converted from basic to types B60. There you have to write about type A, type B, and how you calculate to find B60. This one you have to write with the tables. P is what precautions you are going to take for what elements you are checking in your load line survey. 16, 17, or 20 items you have to check that you have to write. 7A is your subdivision requirement which we have done today. And what is criterion of service numeral CS? That formula you have to write and explain. 7B is your excluded space with restricted end opening. So one of the excluded space with the restricted end opening means certain barriers put on the end opening. That way, which one is restricted, which one is excluded, which one is included, that you have to make. 8. So this is 25-mark question where your standard fire test, all will be 6 marks. Standard fire test, A class bulkhead, B class bulkhead, C class bulkhead, all 6 marks each. This might be 7 marks because 25 marks. So accordingly, write about it. 9A, pre-destructive test. You have to explain with diagrams. And 9B is rendering, CAD CAM, and prefabrication short notes. So each will be 4 marks each. So this you have to make accordingly. Now we'll do previous papers. Now we've done the recent papers till 2020. Now we'll do 2019 papers. So sketch and label double hull oil tanker. Intact stability requirements of oil tankers will not be doing. I'll not be doing it. So Captain Sareel's question, torsion stresses will be his question. Now 6A is a limitation in use of oil as fuel, which you have done in engineering knowledge. Why oil as fuel? What limitations it has? It can burn. It gives off emissions. So all those limitations in use of oil, it will have free surface effect. So you can use other powers like hydrogen power or nuclear power and all. So what are the limitations in use of oil as fuel that you have to mention? So each is five. So you have each is 5 mark question. Then what is the standard fire test? That definition, the height of the sample piece, the temperatures at which this is carried out, you have to write at the time intervals. Non-combustible material, because is a material that does not give us vapors which are combustible even at 750 degrees Celsius. Types of bulkheads. So your types of bulkheads as construction will be plain bulkheads and corrugated bulkheads. Basis water tightness, you will have watertight bulkheads, oil-tight bulkheads, and non-watertight bulkheads. And basic fire bulkheads, you will have A, B, and C. Now, special category spaces are those spaces or service spaces as in your Roro vessels. So you have to write about that. Then 7, you have to differentiate between enclosed and excluded spaces and draw the diagrams, a few diagrams of enclosed and excluded spaces and differentiate that. Now this is a 25-mark question, so you have to draw a little more number of diagrams for explanation. This is not 6-mark question, so 25-mark question. So draw at least 5 diagrams for enclosed and excluded spaces showing them. Draw everything, that will be better. Because it's 25-mark question, try drawing all the 8. 8A, difference between gross registered tonnage, net registered tonnage, and what is gross tonnage and net tonnage. So you have to differentiate between them. Now, what are the various criteria for excluding a space while calculating volume in tonnage space? So what criteria using for excluding a space, those diagrams you have to make. So actually this and this question is same. I don't know why they put both together. It shouldn't be that you giving one question here and again second question again on the other part. Well, that's an exam, you can't help it. Similarly, you give the criteria and excluding space. So the criteria you have to write. You don't have to make diagrams here. What are the criteria for excluding a space you have to write? A 2019 question of July. So this is MMD paper for LNG tanker midship section. Draw and label. No explanation. Write on the FSC due to slack tank, multiple load lines, effect of draft and displacement of rolling. So my of a vessel with high tensile steel will be more. It will be much more, of course. The structural maintenance also has to be maintained, because if it rusts, then your strength will be reduced. But your earning capacity will be increased because dead weight is increased as the weight of the high tensile steel is less. So you have to explain advantage, disadvantage using that points. 6B, advantages and disadvantages of aluminum in construction of material. We have already done that. 7, basis length. So length you have to explain 96% at molded rep 85%, or length between perpendicular. You have to write what is block coefficient. You have to explain with formula. Watertight and weathertight basis the uppermost continuous deck. How is the minimum bow height assigned and importance of bow height with the diagrams. Basis shear and fashion plate, both the points. You have to explain basis both. 8A, connection of aluminum to steel, all the three bolting, cladding, as well as TIG welding. 8B is body plan, half breadth plan, shear plan, along with the sketches you have to explain. 9th is not my question now. So here is midship section of LPG tanker. Sketch and label, no description. 6A is your A60. You have to explain A60, not the other type. Alternative load line, permissible length. 7A, salient features of load line convention. Difference between type and B60. 8 is testing of metals in shipbuilding. So all your 6 type of test you have to mention here. So they have not mentioned any 3. They have to explain the testing of metal in shipbuilding, all the 6 types. 8B will be shear plan, body plan, you have to explain. The 2018 paper we are doing. Sketch and label midship section or hatch coverless container vessel. Illustrate additional features for compensating loss of strength due to large openings. So here you have to mention about gusset plate. Let me show you what is a gusset plate. Today I just drawn for second mates. So I'll explain what is gusset plate. How to compensate for that loss. Now this is the gusset plate. I hope when you were in second mates I had taught you, but I don't know if you remember. Now because of your discontinuity stress, when your hatch corners are rectangular, those corners can crack. So below these corners you have gusset plate connected, either riveted or welded, so that your stresses are spread out on this gusset plate. You always also have this gusset plate on railway bridges to spread out your stresses on the various members. So this is how you compensate for your stresses on your large openings. I'll explain with another diagram. Now because of your large openings here on the hatch, in your hatches, the corners are subjected to discontinuity stress. So you connect a gusset plate like this on the hatch member, the members here below this these joints. It is like your kite. You have those teely here. You connect a piece of paper here. Paper is acting like a gusset plate and supporting the members. So similarly, gusset plate is supporting the members and spreading the stresses here on the area. Otherwise, the corners would be broken or would indulge in fractures coming up here. So these are the spreading of stresses done by gusset plate. So yeah, this is a rolling, large rolling remedial action, not mine. This is your parametric rolling and all. Now we come to 6A floodable length, permissible length and subdivision load line. Each is 8 marks. So you explain like that. 7 is condition assignment as per international conventions of load line. So write for all the three, that is A and B, write for both. Write for A, write for B, write for B60 also. This is 25 mark question. 8A and B are not mine, but torsional stresses I believe you might have been studying because of twisting motion. One thing is weights and second is dynamic because of waves. Racking is because of rolling. So you have beam knee connected here. Those are racking stresses. So we'll be doing the last paper now. And then we'll be opening up for your questions. Similarly, you have sketch and level hatch coverless cellular container vessel. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of hatch coverless container vessel over normal container ship. 6A is your difference between A60 and A0. I hope you can write about it. I've been explaining for more than 3 or 4 times. I've explained requirements of trunkway passing through A-class bulkhead or A-class division. So trunkways are basically passageways which are passing undertake. We have done that in general cargo vessels, which had midship accommodation and poop deck accommodation. So those trunkways were passing through that. That requirement you have to do. I'll be doing the trunkway also for you. Differentiate between type A and B100 as per load line convention. And with respect to tonnage convention, explain 2 examples of excluded space. So 2 examples you have to give. 8A, sequence of events in modern shipyard we have done. Impact test we have done. So this all we have done. This is coming again and again. So now this is the end of your papers now. So we'll do your trunkways. So when your trunkways or tunnels for access of crew accommodation to stoke hold for piping or other purposes carried out through main transverse watertight bulkheads, they should be watertight. As I had explained, these are the passageways for the crew where the midship accommodation was there. Then you had crew living in aft quarters and midship for the officers and the bridge. So they were passing through the trunkways. So the access of at least one side of each tunnel or trunkway, if used as passage, at sea should be through a trunk extending watertight to a height sufficient to permit access above margin line. And the access to the other side of trunkway or tunnel must be through a watertight door of the type required. So you have to write about all these things. So trunkways or tunnels shall not extend to the first subdivision bulkhead above the collision bulkhead. So when proposed to fit tunnels or trunkways for forced draft, piercing main transverse watertight bulkhead, they should receive special consideration of the flag state. Thus, what about vertical ducts? Like you have lifts. So what are the requirements for vertical ducts? We'll do that. A vertical duct is a duct which passes through more than one deck. So you'll have vertical ducts even in Roro or ships who had lifts. Like I had a ship which had lift from engine room to master's cabin. So that is a vertical duct. So they should be insulated as per the tables. Compliance with the requirement should be as per fitted with fire dampers immediately above each A-class deck by insulating each damper foaming to A-class standards of the deck through which this duct will pass. So vertical duct having a cross-sectional area should not exceed 0.02 meters square which pass through A-class deck. Other than those which are through main zones are not required to be fitted with fire dampers. Otherwise, they'll be not exceeding zero point 0.0 meters square. Such vertical ducts shall be insulated to same A-class standard bulkheads as the decks through which they pass by continuing the insulation fitted to the deck plating along the ducts for a distance of not less than 380 mm from the deck plating. Ducts of not less than 0.075 meters square cross-sectional area and all vertical ducts are to be constructed of steel or equivalent material. And where your equivalent materials such as aluminum alloy is contemplated, the shipbuilder should be informed that inside and outside of these aluminum alloy ducts should be insulated by A0 standard material. That is your requirements for ducting, trunkways and vertical ducts. Okay, then you can ask your questions now. Question answer हो गए, notes भी हो गए, so you can ask your questions now. अगर क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो सेल्फ स्टडी कर लो, अदरवाइज क्वेश्चन पूछ लो. 15 मिनट है, you can do self study or you can ask your questions. Next class I'm going to start from scratch. That is from stress strain relationship. नहीं तो फिर ऐसा करता हूँ, मूवी दिखा देता हूँ. मूवी दिखा दूं स्ट्रेस स्ट्रेन रिलेशन. चलो मूवी दिखा, चलो वो दिखा दो. खाली बैठ के क्या करोगे और क्या. No, they are showing a ductile fracture. Sound is not coming. I'm trying the sound, but MST problem is there. No sound coming up. So this all I'll explain when we do the brittle fracture. New class cannot understand this because we've not done. So we'll call off now, and this I'll be explaining the brittle fracture in the class and ductile fracture in the class. Okay, we'll call off the day now. Okay, then we'll meet again, then discuss further. Okay, then.
Okay, sir. Good night. Thank you.
Bye bye.